I have the power!
So Masters of the Universe Revelation just dropped, and it's been met with mixed reviews. On the one hand, critics are praising the show for taking an 80s Saturday morning kids classic and finding a meaningful way to continue the story. But it seems like classic fans of the original He-Man show are upset because they thought they were getting a He-Man show all about He-Man, only to get a show about everyone else. And personally, I think this show was a revelation. The animation is awesome, the characters feel just as crazy and fun as they always have. As far as I'm concerned, this show is as much He-Man in the Masters of the Universe as anything else. So let's talk about it. What it did well, what could have been better, and what I, as a fan of the original 80s show and everything that's come since, hope to see in the future. But before we can get into that, a quick recap and obvious spoiler warning for the Masters of the Universe Revelation, which I'm just going to call Revelation, and the original 1983 show as if you could still spoil it. For those of you who don't know, He-Man was an 80s comic turned TV show that was created with one goal in mind: to sell toys. Like, I cannot stress this enough, Cringer only exists because they couldn't find a cheap way to make a tank toy for He-Man to drive around in.
We needed a vehicle, but we didn't have any money for it.
So they took a tiger from another toy line, painted it green, and now my Roomba is called Battle Cat. Seriously, this show should have never worked, especially by today's audience standards. And yet, between the rotoscoped animation, fantastical setting, and bombastic characters, they made a cultural phenomenon that spawned not only one of my favorite shows, but also my favorite music video. Despite all this, the show only ran for a modest 130 episodes, which seems like a lot until you compare it to the Smurfs, which ran for over 250 episodes and had 0 sword-wielding barbarians. See, despite the quality, you can only watch He-Man defeat a slightly different version of Skeletor or Beastman so many times. Not to mention, once you buy a Skeletor action figure, you have him. You don't need another one. Unless you're trying to reenact the Double Trouble episode where He-Man literally outwits Skeletor because Skeletor refuses to say the sentence,
He-Man, I am your friend.
He-Man, I am... I can't do it, and I do not look like you!
This show was bonkers and I loved it. So when we all excitedly heard that Kevin Smith was continuing the show circa 2020, I figured it was obvious some stuff would have to change, because literally every episode was Skeletor did a bad, He-Man make him sad. That's it. It's 80s TV, just sit down and enjoy. And this is the start of what I like about the new show. See, Skeletor and He-Man aren't just awesome, they're iconic. My gamertag is He-Manimation, and I have the He-Man meme as my profile pic for a reason. So how do you get around the fact that your show's leads easily overshadow not just your rogues gallery, but the rest of the supporting cast? Easy. You kill them. Just boom. First episode, He-Man stabs Skeletor, Skeletor destroys Eternia's source of magic, no more He-Man, no more Skeletor. And I just gotta say, the way Kevin chose to show this was amazing. Something I'm not sure a lot of modern viewers appreciated in that first episode is that He-Man stabbed Skeletor. Despite the show having 130 prior episodes, He-Man never really tries to use the sword to harm, let alone kill anyone. It was the writer's subtle way of saying, just because you're a super jack barbarian doesn't mean brains and heart don't matter. So when Skeletor is run through by He-Man, that's a huge moment, because this is Prince Adam being like, bro, we've been at this for 130 episodes. You just killed Mossman? I am so done with you. And I think this was a nice way to signal that the show has Revelation in the title for a reason. For one, Grayskull is no longer just a castle. It's actually the source of creation for all the magic in the whole universe that just happens to be fronting as a Universal Studios ride. This is important because the show never really defined the stakes of what would happen if the castle fell. But now we know it has implications for the whole universe. Another example, outside of Cringer, Orko, Duncan, which by the way is the best name for a techno-barbarian, and He-Man's mom, no one knows Prince Adam is He-Man. So to save time, let's just go ahead and rip that bandage right off. All these pieces let us skip past the old era of He-Man and give the writers a lot more room to explore Eternia, the supporting characters, and have a clear sense of what's at stake. For one, Teela actually gets to do stuff now, instead of just hanging out until He-Man needed a helping hand. In fact, everyone gets to do stuff. With Duncan stripped of his title as Man-at-Arms, Teela wandering the wastes with her new pal Andra, and the villains stripped of Skeletor's leadership, we finally get to see what any of them actually care about. Now, this does lead into some of the things I think could have been handled way better. Like, for one, He-Man just dies way too soon and in the wildest way possible. If you've never seen either the 1983 show or the equally good if not better 2002 Cartoon Network He-Man show, then you don't really understand what's at stake here. I don't think you need a whole season, but we don't really have time to get reintroduced to our heroes after what is probably 20 to 40 years. So when both He-Man and Skeletor immediately die from what is literally described as too much magic, it feels a bit rushed. Like, I knew the first episode was going to be rowdy, but it just seems to happen so fast. And then they bring Prince Adam back just to stab him again. Like, I appreciate that we aren't going to return to the status quo, but he just got back. Let him use the bathroom or something. Another thing was, I really thought they were going to do a gag where Teela just kinda knew Prince Adam was He-Man the whole time. Like, she's smart enough to know when Evelyn is disguised as a hag, but she couldn't tell that Adam was He-Man? They're literally never in the same place at the same time. You can't have superhero logic in Techno-Barbarian land, it just feels like too much. So, when Teela has the revelation that He-Man is Prince Adam, she's just like, y'all suck, I'm out. We get a little closure on this later in literal heaven, but goddamn is this rushed. Then there's how they introduced Man-at-Arms and Orko. I don't care if Duncan did get kicked out of King Randor's court, there is no way the brains behind protecting the kingdom would forego everything just to keep Orko safe. Like, I get we need to know what happened to Orko, but Duncan literally dropped everything to look after the worst character, knowing there's still plenty of turmoil in Eternia. And yes, I think Orko sucks. At me all you like. Also, and okay, maybe this one is more of a nitpick, but maybe Mark Hamill is too good as Skeletor? Like, Skeletor is just an incredible character. He's fun and chaotic and evil, but like 80s evil, so you really do need someone who can do bombastic and still feel unique. So Mark Hamill, the guy who's been the voice of the animated Joker for literally decades, seems like a perfect fit. I mean, the show has mad Batman the Barbarian vibes, and if there's one thing Kevin Smith knows, it's his Batman. So when we meet Skeletor, and you know, he's being all Skeletor, I know I see Skeletor, but what I hear is...
How dare that smug, preening fool try to cash in on my image?
And to the show's credit, we don't see nearly enough Skeletor for that to ruin anything, but like, I just keep expecting him to call Evelyn Harley on accident. Despite all that, I think the show has a ton of promise. And this is really where I have to gush. Prince Adam dies, and he goes to what their version of Valhalla is, and he decides to stay as Prince Adam, you know, his smaller form, rather than turning into He-Man for all of eternity, because Prince Adam is like who he really is. He's still that like clever, quirky guy, and that was awesome. It shows the writers really understand the characters and their motivations, which I cannot wait to see how they expand on in later episodes. And somehow, more impossibly, they did it. They kept the camp. Episode 2, Teela has to deal with Stinkor, the most throwaway of throwaway villains that somehow still managed to become a toy. And Teela is just cool. It's nice to see other characters in the show do have agency outside of He-Man. And Teela makes for a good point of reference because the show really wants us to believe that not only was she Adam's best friend, but that they really cared deeply about, if not outright loved each other. So now that he's gone, the writers need to own up and actually make us believe not only that she's capable, but also that she did care about Prince Adam and He-Man. And god damn, the way this show manages to reintroduce classic characters is awesome. I'm not saying Skeletor isn't my guy, but when Beastman showed up, I literally jumped out of my seat and just started yelling, "Holy shit, it's Beastman!" I felt like a 7-year-old again. Obviously, this show isn't perfect, but in an age of reboots targeted at squeezing out every last dime, Revelation met, if not completely exceeded, my expectations in pretty much every way. I mean, Orko truly sucks ass, and they managed to give him a heart-to-heart moment with Evil Lyn, and then kill him off in a way that really made me go, man, I guess I'm gonna miss that little asshole. Like, I really understand wanting to see your favorite childhood IP handled with care. I too am frustrated with the Star Wars sequels. But I don't think pivoting from the show being all about He-Man to having room to explore the motivations of the literally hundreds of other visually interesting characters in Eternia is a bad thing. I really hate that Netflix released this as a 5-episode part 1, as in, I almost broke my TV when I saw the episode 5 cliffhanger, but I'm also incredibly excited for what's to come. Netflix has done a decent, if not outstanding job rebooting and reviving the 80s shows like Voltron and She-Ra and updating them for modern audiences while still staying true to the source material. And so far, I think Masters of the Universe Revelation is their best attempt yet. I sincerely can't wait till part 2, and hopefully, with any luck, another 130 episodes so I can have even more time with my favorite gang of techno barbarians. But that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, or didn't, please like, comment, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter and Twitch, let me know your favorite obscure He-Man villain, and I'll see you next time.